And we are rolling with Mr. Gerard Way. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Aidan?
I'm very good. I never really know how to start these things, so it's always like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here, man.
That's the studio behind you? That's the home studio?
Yeah. This is Doug, who's my friend and engineer. We share this studio space together. This board is his. It's a Neve board, so it's really special to us. And it's a smaller one, obviously. But
isn't there something like the Neve boards are incredibly rare? I don't know too much about them, but
I know less about them than I should. But I know that every kind of record that I got to be a part of making, like, it's almost always been with a Neve board, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, they do sound really amazing. There's a difference, I think, between a digital desk and a analog.
Yeah, the saturation and clarity is wonderful.
Yeah, and ultimately you're always going into the computer anyway. Like, we're not recording to tape, but the Neves have a special sound.
I wonder if they're ever putting it through like various, well, I guess they're already pretty analog if they're recording through the Neve, so it already has a little bit of that, but I was going to ask about like tape emulation because recently I've just been, I don't know, since Christmas I've been on kind of a plug-in spree, and so I was looking at like tape emulation to see if there are anything that works, and it seems like it's really hard to beat the real thing, so I very much understand going through the board.
Yeah, I've actually been watching people create tape loops with real tape, like real cassette tapes.
Oh, did you watch that Bee Gees documentary?
No, I didn't, but I've heard it is extremely good, so I have to watch it.
I bring it up because they did that. That's how Stayin' Alive was made. They took the drum track isolated from another one of the songs they were recording, and then like created a manual loop with tape and slowed it down slightly, and that's the drum track.
Yeah, Doug was actually mentioning that. Like, he had seen it, or maybe Rob had seen it. Rob Cavallo was here to check out some synthesizers, and I think he mentioned it. And yeah, it sounds very good. It sounds extremely good.
Is this off the side of your house, or do you go to a studio?
Yeah, there's a house, and then we're lucky enough to have like additional structures on the property, and one of those structures is the studio.
Wow.
And yeah, so there's an office where I write all my comics. There's a control room where Doug is most of the time, and he just works on whatever unless we're recording together. And then there's a big live room.
Wow.
Yeah,
you're all set up to like fully track a song there, aren't you?
And the cool thing is you really never know how a room is going to sound, like a live room.
Yeah.
But the house that we so luckily got was owned by Mark Ryden and Marion Peck, who are two really amazing painters. And so this additional structure was their painting studio. So Mark would be in what is now the live room, and he would be working on these super large paintings. You know, he built this out. He built high ceilings. So it ended up being like a live room that sounds really good for drums and for miking amps.
Between you and your engineer, is this sort of a thing where you like use him for demos? Are you fully producing a song?
I guess everything we've done, in a way, it like starts kind of like a demo, but it's amazing how much of that original tracking carries over to the final track. And I think the reason for that is because Doug he has like a really great ear, and even if you're just doing a demo, he takes it like super seriously from a sonic perspective, you know? Like, we don't take ourselves super seriously, but like if we're getting a guitar sound, he wants to make sure it's a great guitar sound that fits the vibe of what we're working on, so he'll dial that in. And so a lot of times in the past when we've tried to like retract things, it doesn't beat the original.
I'd imagine you're taking like the basic take, like drums, bass, and guitar, or maybe it's like you're pulling elements to use when you overdub.
Yeah, basically it'll start with a click track and I'll play guitar to that. We start building from there. And then Doug is really good at programming drums. We always have a drummer retract the drums live so we get the real drum sound. But all the demos, all the songs really, the demos that become songs, it's all programmed drums by Doug.
Got it.
And so, yeah, it's cool. And he's really good at it. So like you can really get an idea of what it's going to sound like with a real drummer because he uses like really good sounds and he'll program in fills and things like that. So it feels pretty real.
So I imagine like between you and him, you're tracking like all the instruments in-house.
Yeah. Except for
drums.
Except for drums, which because of, quarantine and everything, we'll most likely work with drummers that have a home studio set up that they can record themselves, and then we could use those drum tracks. Otherwise, we'd have to have somebody come here, go into the live room and play the drums, which I think there's enough space where we could do that socially distant.
Yeah.
And everybody wore masks and stuff.
Still, though, it's tricky.
But yeah, it's tricky, and we're really trying to stay locked down, because that's what the scientists are telling us. So they're telling us to just stay locked down. So we're not having anybody come to the studio.
That's great, though. Is Doug, like, relatively close by? Is it, like, easy for him to get into the studio?
Yeah, he lives about, like, a half hour away.
Okay.
It's actually funny. The thing about Doug, to get into his background a little, he's from the East Coast, and he did some work with Chris and Tina from the Talking Heads. He did some Tom Tom Club stuff. He's done a lot of stuff. But with me and My Chemical Romance, he engineered the Black Parade.
Wow.
Yeah, he did all the engineering on that. And he had an assistant engineer, but he was the engineer. He engineered Danger Days, and he engineered and produced my first solo album. And generally, all those single songs that I've been putting out for the last 3 years, he's done all those.